Good afternoon. Back with another rendition of the B&H virtual event space. We're bringing it back to the basics today with a 6-part series on the basics of photography. So I would like to welcome to the virtual event space, back to the space, travel photographer Esteban Toro. Esteban, how's it going?
Hey, Derek, I'm super good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. You know how it is, cold here in the city, but we're inside, we're warm, we're bringing it back. I feel like we haven't done a photo basics workshop in quite a while. So it's good
Okay.
every once in a while to brush up, right?
Yeah. I think it's important, and like when we had the photo walk back like 2, 3 months ago, there were so many questions about how to use the camera. There are things that people are hesitant about, and I just thought like, okay, it will be really cool to have to learn from the basics. And I have been in that position many times. Indeed, I have like every time that I discover a new photographer and I want to learn about his techniques, how he or she understands like aperture and ISO, and everyone has a different position about it. So I think it's really cool to start from the basics. So yeah, we were going to have an amazing opportunity here for everyone to learn.
Definitely. Well, I'm glad you said that because this class is not just for beginners, it's for everybody. And it's for that very reason that everybody has a different approach to photography. So I think that's part of what we're going to be going into, in addition to the technical aspects and the exposure triangle and types of cameras, is your approach to photography. So I'm going to turn it over to you. I want to send a huge thank you to Sony for sponsoring this 6-part series and welcoming all of our viewers in. Definitely check out all these parts. They will be available archived online afterwards. So if you do miss one or multiple, you can catch up on them. But make sure you get your questions in. I'm going to turn it over to Esteban for now, and see you in a little bit.
Sure. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this workshop. This is going to be a 6-part series where I'll be teaching you photography from the very basics. So if you have ever wanted to learn how to use any camera, and I know we said that this is sponsored by Sony, but any camera, any brand, any model, even your mobile phone, you can use anything to learn in this workshop. We will go through the basics. We will go slowly trying to show you what for we like use every setting in our camera. I have to tell you that I'm very excited about this workshop. I realized that I haven't been teaching basic photography in the last 3 years. I have focused more on storytelling, editing, and other type of workshops. So I had to even refresh, and it was like, oh, how do I explain this? And I've been teaching photography for more than 8 years, and where I started teaching basic photography. I had a course that was called like photography for hobbies or something like that, where we just had fun with people learning how to use our cameras. So I'm very excited, and well, that's gonna be. I want to start by telling and share with you a little bit more about my story as a photographer, how I started and why I get into this world before we enter all these techniques and all these settings that we will be going through. So for those that have never heard about me or have never had the chance to meet, I'm Esteban Toro, and I'm going to share you a little bit of my story, how I started into photography. So let me share my screen over here. Let me just check that everything is there. And I'm just going to show you my screen right now. So, and please, this is very important. Derek already mentioned it, but if you have any question, don't hesitate to just write it on the chat or write it, and Derek will handle it to me, and I will solve any question that you might have. So as you see, this is basic photography, introduction to photography, and I want to start by sharing with you what it means or how I started into this fascinating world. And let me tell you this, I was a musician before I started into photography. I was playing bass guitar, and my biggest dream was to have, I remember that I was dreaming about getting into stadium and having like, I don't know, maybe 100,000 people just looking at how I played the bass guitar. That was maybe my dream. And I was working very hard on it. So I spent a lot of time just practicing and practicing. Those who are musicians who play any instrument, they know, like you understand that music requires a lot of practice. But then I spent a lot of time just working and working in my instrument. And then I realized that there were other things that I also wanted to do. And I was having a conversation one day and someone mentioned photography between other topics. Like, yeah, I was doing this, and maybe we went to a museum and there were some photographs and photography and we talk about it. And I just kept thinking like, hey, I have never ever learned how to make beautiful photographs. Like how do you actually take a good picture? And by the time I just had like point and shoot camera, that it was very I just had it for traveling, and whenever I wanted to also like to record myself to see how I was performing, I just use it for that. And then I thought like, okay, I had never had the opportunity to learn where in the menu of the camera I will press certain buttons and then I will get the right settings to take a beautiful picture. So I was literally imagining that I just take the camera and there was going to be a menu and I was just going to go to landscape and I was just going to point at whatever, no matter what. It didn't matter the light, anything, and it was going to look very, very beautiful. And the same with a portrait or anything like that. Actually, when we had like a very shallow depth of field, that we will get into that. If you miss some of these concepts, we will get to that. Don't worry. All these strange words, I will start explaining them. But when the background is very blurry, I was thinking that it was just a setting in the camera that you just have to activate and it was going to work. As actually it kind of fits now with the new generation of cell phones that you can actually, yeah, I was surprised how the new iPhone can just like select the background and change what it's in focus and what it's blurry. So it's very interesting. That was the world that I was imagining, like that I was thinking it was going to be photography 15 years ago. So that's how I started. I decided to take my camera and learn from, I just researched like, okay, a photography school. And I went to one professor and I told him, I remember getting with my camera and telling him like, okay, I want you to teach me the menus of this camera. I want to take beautiful pictures and that's all. I was thinking it was going to take me probably a matter of, I don't know, a couple of days to get used to the camera and then I will be a pro photographer, because I never understood what a pro photographer will do. And actually all the photographers that I knew before were maybe like event photographers or something that was not like, I had really never get involved into photography, but I was absolutely stunned by beautiful images. And that was something that really caught my attention. So the first time that I went to the first class, and one of the things that I liked the most about this class was that we went to a park and that I was playing with my camera, and I noticed first the passion of all the people, the group. And this is something that I still love about photography, and it's that every time that there is a group of photographers and we get around, we see all these beautiful people getting this powerful energy of sharing, of exploring, of showing the images to each other. And that was something that really caught my attention. And I was looking at the pictures that some of them were taking and I was really amazed. They look beautiful. So I started exploring. I remember that I sat on the like underneath a tree and I explored my camera several times. Like I was just moving buttons around, trying to understand what exactly I was doing. But I was just looking at numbers in the screen and I had no understanding of what was happening there. So, and then this is one of my first pictures that I took back in, this is 2000, I think 2008, 2007. So this is one of the first images that I take, and I think like, wow, this is looking beautiful, but I have no idea what I'm doing. I really don't understand what's happening here, or how I will, if I have to recreate this image, I will have no idea how to do it again. So this is how it started. Another thing that really like inspired me in photography was that I was discovering that I had control over a certain device. So I remember that you will look at this picture and you will think like, why he's showing us this? And the truth is that this is also, I started looking in my archive, just finding like files to share with you. And this is something that I have never shared with anyone. I was happy to see how I could control the camera and see motion. So I could just move my hand and move the camera at the same time, and I will recreate this feeling. And I remember the professor in that time started explaining me how to do it. But like he was explaining a lot of concepts that I was like, okay, I don't get anything that you're saying, but I understand that if I move this button, I will be able to create this. And that was really interesting. So as I found this beautiful when I look back at these pictures, because I discovered that I took several, and I just broke some of the pictures that I wanted to show you, but I discovered that I took several. I was really fascinated by this motion that I was able to create with the camera. So then I realized that I wanted to create this, but being aware exactly of what I was doing with my camera. And I remember that that first night, it ended up in one street just taking like long exposure photography. And I discovered how the motion, like the light of the cars were painting in front of the camera. And I remember I was just putting the camera somewhere and I could have these results, and I was really amazed. And I remember getting back to my house and just looking at this picture, and I couldn't believe that I took this photograph. And I felt really proud of myself. I was like, wow, I kind of consciously understood how to create this image, and I was able to do it. And I know this is a terrible, horrible, it's an awful photograph. So please, if you're thinking like this is my best picture, no, but it is not. Just want to show you the whole process. But I was really proud at the time. And I think the fact that I decided to go out and practice really helped me to connect and understand that what I wanted to do was to take pictures and I didn't I didn't mean at the time to be a photographer, but I really wanted to like kind of master the camera and understand how it will work. Um, and of course, it has some challenges because, as I told you at the very beginning, I was just trying to be a really good musician. So I remember being at my room, having my bass here, and I had like my bass, and I had two bass, and I had like a lot of stuff here, and I had my camera. And I remember that while I was playing, I was just thinking like, I should take my camera and practice as much as I practice with my instrument, which kind of became a competition because I had to like stop practicing with my instrument, which wasn't that good for my musician role. And then I started taking the camera and practicing and trying to understand what these numbers and how this camera will work. I think at this point you will understand which path I decided to take and to follow. I don't play bass guitar anymore, which is kind of sad, but it's how it is. I changed completely music for photography, and it's something that that has really changed my life. So I started taking more pictures, and the more pictures that I took, the more I wanted to explore the light and the colors, but not also the light and the colors, but the editing. I was very fascinated by different softwares, not the ones that I use now. I don't even remember the name of the software that I was using at the time. We didn't have like all these smartphones and with all these apps. I had to take my pictures and then bring it in maybe free software that I had for my computer, and just to start editing and exaggerating. And I remember that this was one of the first images that I took that I said like, wow, this is looking really cool after I edited. So this kept me inspired to keep going out and discovering more and trying to be out, which was at the same time a beautiful contrast with being a musician, because well, as being a musician, I had to stay all the time indoors practicing. Photography kept me out and going out and meeting with friends. And while I was looking at these photographs, preparing this conference for you, I was just seeing how many pictures I started taking. So I had plenty of pictures with my friends, with people who will come and visit. I wanted to photograph absolutely everything because I wanted to practice all the time. I found funny pictures like glasses full of water in black and white, things that made no sense to me nowadays, but at the time it was really, really beautiful to see how I was developing that process. I could take pictures of nature, and these were one of the first things that really caught my attention. And if you look carefully at this picture, it's like out of focus. I didn't understand how to focus the camera. I didn't understand how it will work. And there were so many things that I had to change at the same time. And I felt really confused. And that was very challenging. That I wanted to learn, I wanted to create beautiful images, but I wasn't able to understand exactly to connect how to produce this image and how to manipulate the camera here. And at the same time, and I'm going to tell you why I share all these stories, but I was feeling a little bit frustrated because I will see how other people in the group of photographers that I was joining, they were creating beautiful imagery. I was amazed, but they were the colors, their cameras were bigger and more pro, and they were there for a longer time. But I was just in a rush. I just wanted to be like as good as them, and I thought at the time that they were the best photographers that I could ever meet. And I was just looking to get the same, but I didn't get it. So even that this was like one of the best pictures that I took at the time, it was not it was not as good. It was not even half as good as the pictures that my mates were taking at the time. So I felt like really in a competition, and that that was good in the sense that kept me like putting more effort, but of course wasn't good because I was pushing myself too much. And then after years, I understood that photography is really about, it's a matter of time, and not only the time that it takes you to take the picture, but the time that it takes you to grow up as a photographer, grow your vision, and understand who you want to be, and especially what you want to do as a photographer. But I share with you, especially these emotions, and I just don't want to take this course to be like photography is this, and you move the shutter speed like that, and so on, because I really want to share feelings and memories that I have as a photographer, because I know many of you have had it. And if some of you just decide to go right now and check maybe my Instagram or my website, you will look at some of the pictures and you will say, and this is, I tell this because I have had this conversation with former students where they tell me like, Esteban, I don't think I will ever reach your level of pictures of as a photographer. And I always tell them like, nope, you will never reach the same level. You will reach a different one or even a better one. And this is true that I have had students that now they are published photographers that are making a lot of money, that are super good at their craft. And I'm very proud of that because they first were like in this rush of becoming a successful photographer, but they were not putting the effort to learn the craft. And when they decided to stop and take it easy and just practice and practice, they were able to get and to reach a very beautiful and nice and yeah, like a very good level that I'm very proud about. So I'm going to share with you also some insights of my own career and how I have approached these issues and situations in the past with the students. Well, as you can tell by my accent, I am not an English speaker person. I mean, I was born in Colombia, in Bogota. And in Colombia, by the way, it's Colombia, not Colombia, for those who sometimes mispronounce it. I have, like, we live in the equatorial line, so we don't have seasons during the year. Basically all the year we have two things. We have like rainy days and we have sunny days. That's all we have all the year, which sometimes I miss when I'm here in New York City and it's a little bit cold, although I love the snow. But the reason that I'm telling you this is that we don't since we don't have seasons, when there is like very heavy snow and we have ice falling, it's a day that we all want to enjoy and go out, and because it's kind of a snow. So it was a very big coincidence that in one of my first photography lessons, like maybe my fourth time that I went out to practice with my camera, it was kind of like icing like this, raining with really strong ice, which was beautiful because it looked like snow. And since we don't have it frequently, it looks beautiful and we are fascinated. So when I took this picture and I came back home, I was like in love with this image, and I think I cropped it and then I add contrast and did a lot of things to make it like look like more beautiful. But this was the first picture that I felt proud of, that I was like, wow, this is I achieved something good. And of course, these kind of rewards help you to feel better and to feel more confident in what you're doing, and in the long term it helps you to understand that this is a long process. as you can see, after some years, I kept taking pictures, and look at this. It's super funny because now I'm a person who really doesn't like watermarks on the pictures, but I can see my own watermark at the time. Awful. But this is one picture that I really like. Also, maybe going out and just practicing with my camera. And I just took this picture. I remember that I edited, and then I, like years after this picture, I exhibited in, yeah, in some art exhibitions, and I sold this picture a couple of times. And I remember that after some years, maybe like 5 years ago, I took the same raw file. And don't worry if you don't understand what is a raw file, we will get to that. I look at this raw file and I said, like, okay, I want to repeat this picture. I want to like edit it again and get the same results. And you know what's the funny thing? I have never ever been able to repeat this picture like how I edited, because I feel that I spent a lot of time just experimenting and creating with my camera, and then after in the computer getting some results. And I didn't have also any structure in my head of how a picture should look like. I didn't have many references. I just had like, my biggest references were my mates in this photography group. So as time went by, I feel that with time you just get so many references, and you read a lot, and you share with other photographers and colleagues, and then you get like influenced by all these things, and then of course your vision change and you cannot reach certain things. So for those who are literally starting today in this class, photography, I really want to invite you to create and experiment a lot, even if you feel that you are not yet in the level that you want to reach, because there are things that you will not be able to recreate after, even if you have more experience and more years doing it. So that was a picture that I like. And well, this is a picture that really reminds me of that time when I was just experimenting with everything. And I think I have, this is something that many people don't know about me, but I have, as a photographer, I have explored being like taking portraits, landscape, advertising, fashion. I have tried 360 photography. I have done video. I have experimented almost with every possibility that you might have in photography. I have tried it, and I have learned from that, and I have met people in the industry, because I really wanted to. I feel I love photography, and then I will just follow this path as a travel photographer. But in the moment, I just wanted to experiment more, and that helped me to understand many things. So I feel that learning from fashion photography has helped me a lot in my current when I make like stage pictures. When someone is posing, I know how to direct them, and then if I want to do something, I want to advertise a product or something that I created, I can use all that knowledge for something. So I think that many times when you hear other photographers, and when you go to portfolio reviews or you have conversations with photographers, they will tell you, or they will ask you what exactly, like what type of photography you want to do. And I think that is a question that at certain point becomes very like relevant and important, and you have to decide what type of photographer you want to be. But then before that, I suggest you experiment with absolutely everything that you can and that you like. And even with the things that you think that you will not find interesting, like try to experiment with that, because that will help you a lot as a photographer to grow and to understand others, because it's a big industry anyway. I have done weddings, I mean, like so many things. And this is me. This is me back in 2010, I believe. I'm sorry that the picture is super small, but I couldn't find it in a bigger size. I think it's very old picture. And I was just like, I mean, you can just notice by the editing, you know, like this lens with the like color and the rest in black and white. It's, I don't know, it's funny just to find these things. And this closes kind of like who I was as a photographer. And then I jump into this more recent picture back in 2019 that I took this picture was taken. And this is how I have grown as a photographer. And then I just feel that there is a big difference, a big gap in the person who's holding this camera and the person who's holding this camera. So for those that don't really know me, I want to show you a little bit of my work and to introduce you to what I do as a photographer and what I create. I am a travel photographer. I have been to more than, I really don't count them, but I think it's more than 50 countries around the world. I have been fascinated by discovering the beauty of this world and trying to show it in a very, I feel I would describe it as a very strong and powerful way. I like to go to different type of communities and places and just interact with the people and try to get beautiful images from there that will make people want to go to those places, and that will make that people will say like, okay, I want to, yeah, I want to visit that country, I want to discover this community, and especially that they will feel inspired to go out and take pictures. So that's what I've been doing as a photographer for the last 10 years. I've been just traveling to several places, capturing in different like conditions, trying to understand how to create better images, trying to find new angles, trying to recreate the angles of photographers that I admire, trying to visit the places that other photographers have visited, trying also to discover new places where people have never been. And especially, and this is something like a take, something that I take over from all these experiences, that I have had the opportunity to meet a lot of people and to shake hands and to be in places that I will otherwise never visit if it's not because I'm traveling with a camera and because I have this idea and this concept that I want to just take beautiful images. And another thing that I want to mention is that I started this project of traveling around the world and photographing all these communities even before I had a platform where to share it. So many times I've been wondering like, okay, what I do with all these pictures, where, like what for I take these images. And then the first place that I found to share these pictures was with students. So I started teaching photography, as I told you in the very beginning. And I was able to understand like, okay, I'm just gonna go to California and I'm just gonna take pictures of long exposure. So next time when I will be teaching my students how to create a long exposure image, I will show them how to create a beautiful picture, but with a picture that I indeed took in the past. So that was first my purpose. And then I went to editorial world, and then I started publishing my pictures in magazines, and then I started working with brands, and then I started giving conferences and being more like a speaker and educator. And it's been like in that sense that I have evolved my career as a photographer. Something that has really catch my attention is to photograph people and to photograph communities and to photograph stories. Something very funny is that I usually don't share my pictures with the long story. So if you check my Instagram, I tend to write like more like simple captions or write something very different, but not about the picture. And the reason for that is that I prefer to share the story behind the image when I have the opportunities like this, where I can like have more like conference style and can just like share deep information, deep insights about how it was created, who's the person who is here, why I'm photographing her. And just to mention one story, if you want to know the story of Harish, that is the woman that you're seeing here. Basically, she's a transgender ballerina, and I photographed her story. I discovered her while traveling in India, and I traveled the whole country just to meet with her and document her. And well, there's a beautiful story, and I produced a documentary with Sony back in 2018, and it's online, it's free. The name of the series is Aperture, and you can watch it and you can understand what's the story behind this photograph. But just to summarize a little bit of the stories and how I decided to create these pictures. So to me, it's really meaningful to be here sharing the pictures that I'm showing you, because each one of them have a story. And I would love to share if you have more like questions in general about the photographs. But at first, I just want to like show you the images and get to the point. But yeah, so there are images that really get me. I think one of the things that I like the most about being a photographer is discovering new communities and communities that are very different to me. I have been able to break my own, like I would say, like preconceptions about countries, continents, religions, everything. So it's been really beautiful. And now when I look at these pictures, I feel very thankful that I have been able to go to these places and meet with these people. So I have, as you can see, my work has changed a lot, and it's been the work that I have, I mean, the effort that I have put for 15 years, but I'm sure that my work will change even more in the next 15 years. So I just want to show you these pictures, and I really took the time to look for the first images because I want you to find kind of an inspiration here that you can really be able to take these pictures if you put the effort to learn how to use your camera first, and then you just open your own sensibility to capture the world or to capture whatever type of photography you want to make. And yeah, so there are many stories behind each one of these images, how I captured them, why I ended up there. But this is, I want to focus a little bit the workshop into like the stories, but also like the technical side. And as I told you, I feel when I look at certain images, I feel that I'm still photographing the same things that I was photographing at the very beginning. I show you the first picture. Let me just go back to that one. Sorry that I will just go back very fast. But if you look at this photograph, it's the motion of the cars that really got me into photography, into night photography. And I remember that taking this picture back in the Emirates was really beautiful and powerful, because I didn't imagine, well, I'm just getting to the picture. It was a little bit long way, but I was dreaming about a picture like this. So when I was able to take it, I was really happy that I could access something like it. And let me just share with you the story. I think we're good on time. I can share with you some of the story of this one. If you look at this picture, you will see I was looking to take a beautiful and impressive image of Dubai. Like I wanted Dubai to look like big city with huge highways and avenues and, you know, like very powerful. And I was dreaming to take this image at the blue hour, and we will get also into what is the blue hour. And one thing that I did was I just decided to go in the subway looking with Google Maps where I could have a beautiful location of the main highway and still being able to see the city. And then I discover, let me see if I can find it here. There is a station somewhere here. There's a subway station somewhere here. And I stopped there and I decided just to walk around and just look for something, some place where I could just take my picture. And there was this old building, and I mean, like, look at the buildings that I'm showing you here is like super 21st century like buildings, and it was this really ugly and an old building. And I just got inside and I just pressed the elevator to the last floor, and I got into the last floor and I get into the rooftop. There were like emergency stairs, and I was in a building where I had never been before. And I just open like the stairs getting out of the emergency exit, and I see this incredible, amazing view. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I want to take pictures of here. But the funny thing is that I didn't have my camera at the time. So, because I was just exploring, I was just scouting. So I just decided that next day I was going to come back. And I was taking pictures with a friend, a colleague photographer. There were some wrestlings on the other side of the city, and I was just dreaming about this picture. And then I decided to come back, and I come back to the rooftop. I come back with him, and then we found this security guy, and he he asked us just like, what are we doing? And I said like, oh, I'm sorry, I just want to take a picture, which many times has opened many doors for me. Many times people say like, oh, you want to take a picture, go ahead, don't worry, and we start sharing. But this guy was super like, he didn't like that I was there. So he basically kicked us out from the place, and I was trying to make time just to see if I could take the picture or convince him that he will allow me to take this image. And well, while I was getting out, I just like, I was walking down the stairs and I found this guy from India, and I've been many times to India in the past. So I asked him like I recognized him, and I recognized he was from India, and I started like I don't know, saying something, and we start talking, and he said like, hey, why were you there? Where are you going? And I said like, no, I'm just like, I just wanted to take a beautiful picture, but your colleague didn't allow me to take the image, so I'm just getting out. But it's pity because it's really beautiful. And he tells me like, okay, you know, I have a friend who lives in, like, he has the best view, even better than that one. And I said like, yeah, really, okay, let's go. And it's and you know, like, you look at this picture and you imagine, I don't know, maybe it's from a rooftop, incredible rooftop, but reality is this is a very old and really small apartment in Dubai where I think 7 people live. It's super small room, and they have this really narrow balcony where you can get access to this incredible view. And this is where I took this panorama. So I'm just standing here while in, this is a really narrow balcony, and they are offering me Indian tea, which was super delicious. And we had the time to share and discover the people. And but look how photography is super interesting. I've been telling this story a couple of times in other conferences. And when I tell this story, people always ask me, and where is the picture of the apartment? Like, where is the picture of the apartment? This is a small apartment with 6 people looking outside with this incredible view. And I'm like, that's the picture that I didn't take, because I was so obsessed with taking this picture that I forgot about the other one. Like, and the other one I feel is more like the story. But however, this is the final picture. But this obsession that started years in the past took me after in the future, and I was able to complete this long exposure that we will get into that concept. I just want to share a little bit of the stories of the pictures that I'm showing you. And well, that has led me to many places, photographing different cultures, as you can tell, and in different geographies, languages, religions, and from different perspectives. And that's something very important that I want to emphasize now. And it's that at some point I discover photography is all about angles and about perspective. And one of my favorite perspectives to photograph is from the air. So I'm a very enthusiastic of getting into helicopters and just photographing from the air, doors off. So this is the Namibian desert. This is the Namib desert in Namibia. And what you're seeing here is the highest dunes in the world, from doors of helicopter, from different perspective, people, cultures, in black and white. I do more color than black and white, but this is something that I do. Portraits of different people, and especially images that create different emotions and different perspectives beyond what the eye is like able to see. So many people, when they look at this picture, they ask me, Esteban, can you actually see like this place as you see it in the photograph? And I have to tell you, nope, you can't see the picture like this, but you're able to capture it like this in your camera, because the camera sees different than how your eyes see. And that's something very important to understand. And this image, I feel, is probably one picture that I was dreaming about. It's like I had it in my mind, but I never understood how to create it. So I went to South Sudan. This is in South Sudan with the Mundari tribe. And while I was photographing them, I saw this kid jumping in the tree, calling for his cattle. And when I saw this picture, I was just amazed. And probably this is the picture that I feel more proud about in all my career. It's one of my favorites from the ones that I show you, probably my favorite. I think I use it everywhere for my background in my computer, in my cell phone, everywhere. And yeah, I just love the colors, love what is happening, love everything that is there. And I just at some point want to love in 10 years, 20 years, just looking at this photograph and maybe have another conference here at BNH and tell you guys like, oh, look, this is the picture that I felt proud of. And now it's nothing. But so far, this has been a little bit about my trajectory as a photographer. But none of this will be possible without understanding the camera and how using and being able to master what you have in your hand will help you to create these beautiful images. In the end, I will be super direct with this, and it's like, it doesn't matter what camera you have, what lens, it really matters what is in front of you and how you're like prepared to photograph what's happening in front of you. That's the most important thing. And the story you want to share and what you actually want to share with your, when your audience, the viewer that will look at your photograph will look at the image you created, they will not care what camera, what lens, or whatever you use, but they will do care about the story or what is happening there. But it needs to be like balance between what is happening in front of your camera and how you're prepared to take that picture. So that's the reason why it's important to understand how photography works and start by the very, very basics. And that's the reason why I created this workshop with BNH and Sony. And I'm just gonna start sharing with you tips and techniques that I have found very useful in my career, traveling in many places, just to create this beautiful imagery. So I hope that it will help you to understand how to create also beautiful images. I have to say that I've been teaching a lot. I have attended many photography classes with many photographers, learning different techniques, and everyone has a different conception of how photography should be done, how it should be taken, different settings. I'm just gonna share my own perspective. It's not the final one. It's not it's not like the perfect one, but it's how I do it. So I hope that you can also enjoy it. And of course, I will be able to solve any question. But if you, and I highly suggest you this, if you're learning photography with me now in this class, get and learn photography from other photographers as well, and understand how they how they practice their technique, and get the one that you like the most for you. So that's just to start. So the first thing that I want to mention, and now we will jump a little bit more into like the history of photography, it's what is a camera and how it works. So if you look at this, what is happening here, let me just stop sharing my screen for a little bit. What is happening here is just, this is a dark camera. This is a dark chamber. There is nothing happening. There is no light entering here. And how it works is that basically there is, and then let me share my screen again. There is the light, and we will see there is, for example, the light of a candle. This is something that is happening in the real world. The light is just traveling, and this is physics. It goes through a pinhole, and from the pinhole is created, it's inverted, it's upside down on the other side of the chamber. And how did we discover this? It was not created, it was, I will say, more discovered by artists in the 15th century, where they wanted to create more realistic images. So they wanted to paint and be more accurate with details. But of course, it's hard to have a model all the time sitting in front of you and being able to transfer from what you're seeing with your eye to the paper, to the canvas, with whatever you're using to draw or paint. So the camera helped us to kind of imitate or copy what was happening there. But then there is a question, and it's, is there photography? I mean, if we look at this dark chamber or dark room, are we having can we consider that it's already photography? The answer will be no. There is still no photography, because in order to have photography, we have to, the whole meaning of photography, photo is light, and graphic is like writing with light. So basically we are writing with light. And in the moment that I have a dark room and I just take something and it's projected in that room, it doesn't mean that it will be a picture. It means that it's just an image that is projected. In order to be able to have a picture, a final photograph, I need to be able to record it somehow, to print it into some surface. And that's where film photography came. And that's where we had the first picture, that it's, we just took like some chemicals that help us to record that image on the canvas. And then we were able to have the first image in history that was created in 1826. We will get into, and I don't want to get into that specific like amount of details, but it's how it started. So then there is something really interesting happening here, that it's, if you know, image is upside down. So if some of you are curious, it's like, why when I open my picture with my cell phone, it doesn't look upside down? Like, if you're telling it's true, why in my cell phone it doesn't look like that? Or why when I just take my camera and point somewhere, I can see the image like perfectly? The reason for that, and that goes a little bit into the history of cameras, is that we created something that is called the mirror system. So the mirror system is basically that the light is coming, is traveling here, is getting projected, and here we have a mirror. Here is a mirror that goes into a prism, and the prism go into the viewfinder, so it helps the image to be like not inverted, to be correctly like on the right side. And then I'm just able to look through the viewfinder and see the image correctly. That was not always like that in photography in the past, and there are cameras like that. That sounds, I'm speaking like a grandpa, but it's like there were cameras like that, where you will just look at your picture, and if you will move to the right, the image will move to the left, and if you will move up, it will go down. And the reason for that was that it wasn't like, it didn't have the mirror system. So that pushed the cameras to be super, super, super big. And it's what's happening here. That's why these cameras were so big. And it's not because they were cooler than these cameras. It was just like, it was a physical system that we needed. But as technology has been developing more and more every year, now here you have the artist. I just wanted to show you how like they painted it. As photography has been evolving, we have had better systems and more technology that has allowed us to reduce and take the mirror system and create something as we call now mirrorless. So if some of you have ever wondered what is a mirrorless camera, it's basically a camera, a dark chamber that doesn't have these physical mirrors, but have like screens, like regular screens as we use in our cell phone. And that's the reason why we have currently amazing cell phones that we can just use to photograph. I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember that we had cell phones in the past where we would just photograph, and we would just open the camera, and the camera was super laggy. It was super slow. So we would just move the camera and it will take some seconds to process. It's the same process that is happening now, that now we have super fast cell phones that we can use all the time just to move and record and do all this amazing stuff. So imagine that these screens, these powerful screens, are going into these small screens. And actually, something that I found very funny is that the size of the cameras are quite the same. Like if you look at the first mirrorless cameras, and I think in the screen I'm sharing just like some part of the history of photography and the camera. But if you look at both sides of the cameras, they look like, well, they are super different on size, but not only the difference in size, but it's also like the first mirrorless were super small. But since for many years, photographers, we were so used to have big cameras, the same audience have been requesting the brands that like, hey, make big cameras because I can get used to like such a small camera that I cannot carry. But actually we are now at this point in technology that we can create really, I mean, just look at an iPhone or any phone and you will understand how capable are we of creating really powerful and small cameras. There will be things that will change, and there's a huge difference between the iPhone camera with a pro camera like the Sony A7R4 that I have here, but we will get to that. By now, I just wanted to introduce you a little bit more into what is photography and how it started, and just to share a little bit more of the steps that we have been through to create a camera. And well, if you want to ever take screenshots, feel free to take some pictures of these images. That will help you, or you can just write me on Instagram after, and I can send them after to you. Other thing that I want to share before we go into a short Q&A, it's what are the parts of the camera. So if we have only the body of the camera, as we have here, we cannot take a picture. We can take a picture, but it will be out of focus. If I just press the shutter here, I will just get a like unfocused image. So in order to focus, I need a lens. That is what I have here. So basically, we will have the lens of the camera and the body of the camera. This is a dark room where no light is entering. And this is the one that helps me to first focus and then decide other adjustments with the optics about how the picture is going to look like. After that, we will have buttons that will help us to control the camera, and it will depend and change on every brand of camera. So it will be different in Sony, Canon, Nikon, Fuji, or whatever camera you use. Even in your iPhone, it will be really different. I'm going to show you how to use it with Sony, but you can follow along, and then you can just find like some tutorial how to change certain settings in Canon, that how is in Canon when you use Sony. But if you're Sony users, you will be able to follow like all this, the same steps. So we're going to go through every button and what for we use each one of them and how to use it and when and what for. But that's going to happen in the next sessions that are going to come, where we will be discussing how to understand and how to create images step by step, understanding every and each one of the menus and each one of the things that are happening in the camera in this amazing and great dark chamber that we are able to have. So now I will just like to jump into the questions if we have some. And yep, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Esteban. It's we're off to a start here. Like I said, we hadn't done an intro or basics course in quite a while, so we're getting our feet back wet on that. And if anybody does have any questions out there, I didn't see anything come in so far, so we'll give them a moment to see if anybody does have any questions on process and anything. What do you think as a beginner the hardest part to grasp is? Because you have the two sides. You have the technical side, and then you have everything else where people just want to go out and take pictures right away, right? Where they want an image that looks good. So is it harder to grasp the non-technical stuff? And when I say non-technical, I mean like not on the camera, like composition, light, stuff like that. What do you think is harder?
I think that's the hardest part, because it's really out of your reach. I mean, it's, you don't even, at least it happened to me that when I started in photography, when they were speaking about the light, the composition, the story, I was like, I don't care about all that. I just want my camera to work and do whatever I want to happen here. So I think it's real, at least to me, it was really like super far from my vision. So after some time practicing, I mean, the technique was maybe my first challenge. And after I was able to understand how the camera worked, then I was able to get into all these other things that are way more complicated than technique. Like technique, in the end, you just get it. Like you just get it. But learning the other part, that it's more the creative process and all, super complicated for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we did have a question, and Reeds is asking when the next lesson will be. February 14th, Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day, yes.
If you don't have a Valentine, come here. Esteban and I will be hanging out online.
If you have them, you can tell them like, hey, I have a plan for you.
we got your Valentine's Day plans covered. There, no reservation necessary, no price surge. Reeds is asking, will there be a cost for next lessons? No, as always, this is free education. This is everything we do on here is archived, so you can always find copies of all different types of topics, workshops addressing everything online. So if you guys are learning any particular part of photography, video, audio, we have something for everybody on here. What is Esteban's Instagram? Esteban, great opportunity. Plug yourself. Give us your Instagram website.
Yeah, it's Esteban Toro M. Esteban Toro M. I guess we can write it in the chat, but it's just my name, Esteban Toro. If you just write my name, you will find it there.
I'll throw it in the chat here for
and
everyone.
my website is estebantoro.com. I think if you want to check more about my work, go to my website. I tend to share more into my
Yeah, we've had Esteban on before. Esteban's no stranger to coming on here and doing the event space. This is your first time doing something intro related, but you've done a lot in regards to travel photography on here. So if you guys are interested in travel photography, and a lot of what he talks about applies across the board, no matter what kind of images you're taking. There's a lot about storytelling, how to capture portraits and people and tell their stories. So there is some good content on there online. Kathleen, who's joining us on Zoom, is asking, how did you get a good photo when the environment is ugly, indoors, bad lighting? How do you work in tough circumstances?
You just have to get around it and look for the right angle, look again, stop being obsessed. Let me just share, like one story. We originally had this lesson yesterday, and I was planning that it was going to be beautiful. I have a beautiful view here from my studio. And I had everything planned with the light, everything, and then we had to change it. So thank you for joining, all people who joined today, and sorry for yesterday. And as I had my setting, I was looking today New York was very cloudy and the light wasn't looking so beautiful, and I wasn't sure about it. I was very obsessed with having that background. I wanted to have another background that maybe you will see in next lessons. But it was not working, and I literally spent maybe 2 hours just looking for the right place or the right positioning, like for the camera, how to have the better lighting, and just working around. So many times we're obsessed with only one angle, one image that we have in our head, and we forget the other image that it's important. So many times it's just a matter of breathing in, looking for a different angle, and trying to understand exactly what you want to get, and then you will find it. And let me tell you this, there are places where you cannot find pictures because it's impossible to photograph. I have found these places, but first I give them a try.
A question from Reed's asking, do you edit all your pictures? What software do you primarily use?
We will get to that. There will be also a lesson where we'll be speaking about RAW versus JPEG, and why I prefer one over another, or like what I use depending on the situation. I can answer you about the software. I mainly use Adobe Lightroom, but I will also get into that. What is next after you take some pictures, and how to process and why to process your pictures. It's not, but I can answer you from now that it's not a matter of post-processing just for the sake of post-processing, but like it has to make a sense that you're like editing your pictures. So we will get to that. Hold on, we will get to that.
Whole lot to cover. I like how you guys are coming out of the gate with a lot of questions, hungry for knowledge.
Adobe Lightroom
said Adobe Lightroom there, Reads is what he primarily processes with. But again, a lot to dive into. This is only week one. I assure you, we have a lot more information coming your way, but we love to see the questions. We love to see people actively engaged in taking better images. So that's all we got for today. It's good to see you guys come out in force and get your questions in. It's great to see you again, Esteban. And I want to send a huge thank you to you for sharing not just today with us, but this entire series. So we're looking forward to it. Huge thank you also to Sony for sponsoring this series. That's all we got for today. We will catch you guys in part 2. Make sure you guys check up on the website. Again, 6 parts. The last part is going to be in person. So if you're able to get to New York City, if you're in the tri-state area, definitely try to get out, because that's going to be great for hands-on learning. So that's all we got for now. Got one more workshop coming up today. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Talking about the Aurora Borealis. Beautiful topic. I've never seen it personally. You ever seen Northern Lights, Esteban?
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. But photograph them is super challenging.
One day, bucket list. So again, that's all we got for you guys for now. Be sure to tune in next time. Another rendition of the B&H Virtual Event Space is in the books. Catch y'all next time.